Hi there. I have good news. You don't need 6 crores or your fire number to quit your job. Seriously. What you genuinely need is clarity. A lot of people think that starting your own business or making a significant career transition or taking a career break, it's all about some kind of leap of faith, and you have to have a lot of courage, you have to be brave, you have to overcome all your fears, and only then can you do all of this. But that is simply not true. That has not been my experience. My experience has been, and this is what I also coach my clients on, is any place you want to be brave, whether it's inside your job or in your life, the amount of bravery you can display is directly proportional to the amount of safety that you feel inside your system. And that's why psychological safety is so important. And that's why this conversation is so important to have, because this conversation has become convoluted with the fire number and early retirement and all of that stuff. And somewhere we've lost sight of the fact that all that we really want is not to stop working or retire early and lie on a hammock. What we want is to do work that feels meaningful to us. We want more freedom of choice, more autonomy, and simply to buy some time to find our feet back in something new that we want to try. That's it. That's all that we want. And that's why we don't need the fire number. What you need is a freedom number. And maybe you've already run your fire number, and maybe you are dead set on it, you've been working towards it. And when you did run the fire number, it did feel like a sucker punch, because it is just shocking, right? Like, you work hard, you earn so well, you've been saving prudently, but the calculator says that you've still got another 5-10 years of the grind ahead. um, and that can feel quite draining. So, my invitation to you is, what if there is another lens? So, hey, and welcome back to Rich, Free, and Limitless. This is the podcast for high achieving professionals who want more freedom without compromising on financial security, without compromising on impact. We still want meaning, we still want fulfillment, we still want ambition, but we all want it on our terms. And this is the place to have that conversation. And I'm Mansi. I used to be someone just like you. What am I saying? I am someone just like you. I went to B school, worked in the corporate track for about 12 years, and now I've transitioned to where a coaching business where I coach folks on making career transitions smoothly. And today we are tackling this big question: how much is actually enough to quit? And I know that this question can be heavy, it can bring up a lot of stuff, it can, like, it can bring up a lot of panic, because sometimes it's not just about us, it's about people who depend on us, their safety, their comfort, or just, you can all, or you can be single just like me and worry about, okay, I don't have a fallback option. Who, if I don't take care of myself, who's going to take care of me, and all of that jazz. So I get it, but that does not mean that you do not have choices in life and that you cannot opt for a different choice 10 years down the line, when maybe the choice that you made last time has kind of you've kind of graduated out of it. Maybe your values have changed, maybe you want something else. At that time all you wanted was to be on the CEO or the CMO or a strategy consultant kind of a track, but maybe you don't want that anymore. And that's absolutely fair, and that's absolutely valid, and you're allowed to have it. So let's talk about how to make that happen much more easier. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the fire number versus the freedom number. Now the fire number assumes that you are going to retire early and you're going to be lying down on a hammock day in, day out until the day you die. And you are, and I are not those people. I can't be that person. Like, all I can imagine is being 80, 85 and still be working, because I like working so much. because I love my work and I get to do things that I really like doing. So it kind of feels like retirement, but yeah, I am still earning money and I'm still ambitious and I'm still growing. And that's why I am falling in the right side of the spectrum, wherein, yes, I get to have a free, easier life. I get to have control over my time and I get to decide who I work with. Yes, I do say no to clients at times. And I get to make tons of money. And that's what we all want. So the real question is not that, okay, when can I just stop and retire? Um, the real question is, at what point can I give myself permission to try something different, to try what I really, really want to do, what gives me meaning, and can I do it now? And how much money do I need to fund that new venture of mine? I don't want to run out of money. How much money do I need to feel safe? And then there is a related question, which is kind of fear of failure. What if I fail and burn through my savings? And we're going to talk about all of these three questions right here. So stay tuned. And at the end of the podcast, if you stay long throughout, I am going to share with you a free resource, a guided workbook calculator for your freedom number, so that you can make all of your financial planning in one place and feel the relief instantly when you see the number, that it's not that high, it's not that far, it's far more achievable. You can get there within 12 to 18 months tops, easy peasy. I promise you that. Okay, so we already talked about this, that the flawed assumption is that you're going to retire, or even if that's not the assumption, notice that you might be assuming that your business is not going to make any money, because your idea of business or your definition of business is a large product business wherein you build, and then finally a customer comes at one fine day and who may or may not pay you. So therefore, this question of, am I going to burn through, because your plan is to burn through a lot of money before you even plan to bring in any money. And I just think that if you're not somebody who has inherited wealth or who has access to a lot of low cost capital, it's just a bad strategy. And that's why I think a lot of people want to chase VCs, get VC money, but what they lose sight of the fact that um, it's just you hiring a bunch of more managers. Only thing is, this time they're going to come for their money. Okay, so what you want is a business which makes money from day one, which is why side hustles make a lot of sense. And a lot of the thinking that I'm going to share with you does assume that you're going to invest in a side hustle and it's not going to be a hobby, which means that you're going to make money out of it. And then by that logic, when are you going to be able to allow yourself to start? And trust me, that's far, far sooner than you can imagine. Okay, so I have structured this conversation, yes, in terms of I want to share the thinking with you, but also it's a little bit of a how to, wherein I want to guide you through the steps. So grab your notebook and we'll get clear on how you can get intimate with your money and how you can decide to give yourself that safety cushion that you're really looking for. So, initially, what is the freedom number meant to provide for? It's meant to provide for four things. Okay, one is your lifestyle cost, which is what I'm saying, the recurring monthly expenses or your recurring monthly revenue that you want to get. Ideally, if it replaces your salary, amazing. You don't need to think about anything else. But if you want to quit sooner, which I highly recommend, it makes sense to understand what is the cost of the lifestyle that you're running right now. And therefore, if you made no changes, zero changes to your lifestyle, what would that the cost look like? And I suggest you don't do this with estimates on paper or do a back of the envelope. Rather, go back, open all of your actual bank statements for the last 6 to 12 months across your credit cards, across your debit cards, and any other places where the money goes out. So you want to get a really good sense of the outflow of the money that you have and really put it under and see what is the cost of your current lifestyle. And this is without pruning anything, without optimizing for anything. Let's just get, like I said, intimate with our money. Okay. The next thing that you want to look at is your emergencies, right? That's what you're afraid of. What if I'm not earning and something bad happens and I might need a lot of money suddenly? So, again, you already do have some money set aside, I'm sure, but this is keeping an emergency fund in place to take care of any unexpected expenses. And this can also include things like buying a better health insurance. Okay, the third thing that it's designed to cover is your retirement, because that's a big question, right? What if I am no longer an employee, and what happens to my pension, or what happens to my PF, what happens to my retirement? I mean, let's take charge of that also. Understand how much your employer actually contributes to PF. Many employers, especially startups, tend to really skip out on that or skimp out on that, wherein they'll do the bare minimum, and then your contribution kind of matches their bare minimum. So it's time to look at it more closely. And in case you are planning to quit, identify some kind of a low cost index fund, or create a retirement plan where you can start putting the money aside so that you're no longer dependent on the government PF scheme. Rather, you've got your retirement plan in place. Finally, we're talking about money that you might need to invest in your business, maybe hire a coach, get a mentorship, or just basic things like a Zoom subscription. This is a StreamYard subscription. These things can add up. So you want to have money set aside to pay for these kind of things, and that way you are feeling truly sorted. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more in detail about your monthly living expenses. Like I said, don't make estimates, get your actual statements down, and really sit down and clean that data the way you might do it for analysis at work. Divided across three different categories: your essentials, which is recurring, essentials that are non-recurring. Your recurring essentials are simple: your domestic help, your rent, your utilities, your groceries, all of that stuff. You want to get averages for that. Non-recurring essentials could be one-time payments that you make in a year. Could be a car insurance premium, or a health insurance premium, or a life insurance premium, or doctor visits, or whatever it is that you end up, you know, incurring money for, or maybe it's your school fees for your kids. So put that aside and, kind of have a sense of that. And finally, have a sense of how much do you actually spend discretionary, which is shopping, eating out, your personal items, entertainment, blah blah blah, blah. Okay. And then arrive at average spends across each of these categories. Now there are so now your freedom number. Okay, I'm not asking you to do any kind of optimization right now. This is just a way for you to figure out, okay, at the level at which you are, the lifestyle that you're leading currently, if you were to make no changes, how much money would you really need? I'm not saying this is going to be your final freedom number. Yes, we can lower it, but let's just look at it. So it's just a sum of three of these three buckets. Multiply it with 6 to 12 months, depending on what makes you feel really safe. Check in with your body, whether it's 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, 12 months, up to you. And then you can quit your job as soon as your side hustle consistently generates this amount. This is what I did. I didn't do it the first time. The first time I was making zero money. I put aside 6 months of my living expenses, and I was like, okay, we're doing this. 4 months in, it took me exactly 4 months before I was back in my corporate job because it did not feel safe. And I learned my lesson. The second time I quit, I got really savvy. And that's when I did these 3, 4 things. I made sure that I had almost 10 months of living expenses set aside. I had my business coach fully paid for which was a big investment that I was making in my success as a coach. I had already, I think, finished my coaching certification and everything on the side. I had a separate kind of a fund set aside for emergencies or any kind of purchases. For me, what made me feel really good was being able to travel. That was important for me. So I, instead of like earlier, I could really feel good about traveling internationally. This time I was like, okay, I'm not going to do international. I'm going to do maybe domestic travel, and I'm going to do 2 trips. And this is the amount of money that I want to keep aside. And I kept that money aside for myself, guilt free spending on vacation time because that's what made me happy. And then finally uh, the PF contribution and the retirement. I made sure I had taken stock of my PF, and I started investing money in a retirement plan so I hired a financial planner. I bought into a fund that those guys manage, and then I set aside a lot of my money there. I consolidated all of my investments underneath this one thing. So I knew exactly that, okay, yes, the PF is stopping, but then that doesn't mean that my retirement plan is stopping. I had myself covered under that. And then there are other things that I did, which I'm going to talk to you in a little bit. But things like just get more clear on taxes. For example, as soon as I shifted from an employment status to a sole proprietorship, I didn't realize that I would get a bunch of income tax relief because the government wants you to start businesses, and um, you don't have to declare. Your taxable income reduces drastically, even though your take home might be great. And knowledge businesses, service businesses tend to be more than 90-95% on margins. You barely have any costs except your own time. So it's a great place to be in. Okay, let's talk about lowering your freedom number. Now, lowering your freedom number is about um, you don't want to become a monk, right? And you definitely don't want to feel poor while you are building your business. And you definitely don't want to feel constricted, or if you have a family, you don't want to make them sacrifice on things and make it into this self sacrificial thing wherein one day I will succeed. No, I mean, a lot of people do it that way. I just don't believe in doing it that way simply because when you keep sacrificing and you keep feeling like you're in the energy of lack, I mean, not a great energy to be in. Anyway, secondly, when when you're in the energy of lack and you know that you've left something better for this, uh, you will continuously feel like, okay, I should have just gotten back there. The noise, mental noise in your head, the doubt in your head is going to be louder, I would say. So if you were wanting to give yourself a better runway, you want to make yourself comfortable enough that you can last as long as it needs for you to match your salary or eventually surpass your salary. Because there are going to be things that may not work your way, your assumptions might not pan out, and a whole bunch of things can go wrong when you start your own business. And I'm not doing that, saying that to scare you. I mean, that is the nature of plans, right? Like we all make sales plans also. How many of them actually go exactly to the T the way we planned it? And we put in a lot of rigor and a lot of group thing goes into corporate plans. How many of them they really pan out? They don't. So it's absolutely fine that your plans may not pan out, but you want to feel comfortable. So how are you going to make sure that you're comfortable? Now I know you, and you don't want to have so much decision fatigue that, okay, at every purchase, at every swipe, you're wondering, should I be spending this? Should I not be spending? Should I be spending? You don't want to get into that zone. So the way to do that is go back, look at your 6 to 12 month statement, and don't look at it from like, okay, cut this, cut this, cut this, cut this. Rather, look at what were your favorite purchases? What gave you the most joy? What are things that give you joy? When you swipe, you're like, take my money, I love it. So maybe it could be massages, maybe it could be a gym membership, maybe it could be travel, like the way I said it was for me. or maybe it's this cafe that you really like going to once a week and you love buying the gourmet coffee. And now you don't want to be like starting a business and telling yourself, no, you can't do that and that and that and that, or like all the joy in your life is gone. No. So you want to just pick those up and make sure that your favorite purchases stay intact, or even if it's not, or you might have a pruned down version of that purchase, but still the joy of it has stayed. So maybe your gourmet coffee stays, maybe your international vacation becomes a domestic vacation, or maybe the frequency at which you might go out might come down. Or I decided to continue with a premium gym membership because that fueled me. That felt really good to me. And so I left all of those intact and I made sure that I had provision for all of those things. And I pruned everything else. Where everything else is where you want to kind of eliminate. And especially look at leakages. When I say leakages, look at all the times that you might have made a late payment and incurred late payment fees or charges. Or look at the big things in your life where you can make a big difference, not the small stuff. You don't want to be sweating the small change and wondering, should I be spending on this or not? Rather, look at the big, the Pareto analysis. Your rent, how much does it contribute? Is there a scope to renegotiate that rent with your landlord, maybe? Or is there something else that you can shift in your lifestyle which can really drastically make a big difference? Most people skip out on negotiating their salaries. So look at ways that you can negotiate your salary. Or there could be any other, especially look for recurring fees that you're paying, subscriptions that you might have taken. Start looking at all of those things and clean it up so that you have a very clear sense of this much money comes in, this is where it goes, and this is what I get out of spending that money, and it feels really good to me. Okay, so that's how you create a lifestyle cost that doesn't feel like you are self-sacrificing, but at the same you're honoring yourself, honoring your joy while building something meaningful, because that's when all the energy is congruent, right? Then you are feeling joyful, you're feeling good, and you're creating something that you feel good. Okay, so, like I said, the lifestyle cost number that you arrive at, it should make you feel comfortable. It should give you some small luxuries, and it should not make you feel constricted in a big way. Okay, now let's talk about how can we increase these feelings of safety. Okay, and then this is where you look at the things that you worry about, and you want to keep some kind of provision for that. So when you've kept 6 to 12 months of living expenses aside, plus you have the side hustle kicking in, then you have money set aside. If anything goes wrong, you have a fallback plan. Your PF contribution, like I said, take control of your retirement plan. I'm sure all of us have some retirement nest building apart from the PF. You're just going to bump it up a little bit. In my case, I did that, but at the same time, for the last, I would be remiss in telling you that in the last 2 years, I haven't actually put any additional savings behind my retirement because I decided that I am my biggest asset. So I went above and beyond, and I think more than whatever I would have put into my retirement, I have invested in mentorship for myself, programs, learning things, because learning to monetize my skills and make money online was a whole new skill set, and it's a composite skill set, whether it's copywriting or whether it's showing up for things like this, or building out systems of scale so that you're not all so that you can be able to rest in the business that you've built. And those are things that require you to invest, and I have invested, and I made peace with that choice that okay, this is my way of taking care of future me, because I'm going to just increase when my income trajectory makes a step change. Of course, my retirement is going to be fine, and it's okay that I'm not putting money aside for the next, 1 year or so, because eventually I'll be able to do much better by myself. It's because retirement, what else is it? It's you taking care of the future you. When the old version of you may not have the energy to work. That's what you're doing. And we still have a long road ahead. So it's okay for us to have a little bit of a blip to be able to make a step change in the income trajectory. That's what we want, right? And building a business does blow the cap of your income potential because you're no longer capped by salary bands of your organization or benchmarks, or and you're also future proofing yourself against things like layoffs and all of those kind of things, because remember, any of those things, the job scene used to be safe. It's no longer as safe now. The same things that you're really scared of in the entrepreneurship part can happen to you within a job. Only thing in this case, you would be prepared for it, and you've been building skills that help you future proof. Over here, you might be blindsided, you might be caught off guard, or you might be living under this constant threat that I have to prove myself. I can't be one of those people whose name is on the list. I don't know. I haven't been inside a company for the last 4 years now, so I can't. I don't even know what that looks like anymore. But I do know that it feels really good for me to be taking care of my future, myself, and having a lot more visibility and control over it. Okay, then we've talked about putting in buffers for any large planned expenses. For example, an electrical appliance might break down. What if your TV broke down? What if you need another AC or whatever it is? Just sit down and think about, okay, what will really make me feel good, and keep some money aside for those kind of things also, so that any surprise that comes, like, no, I have some money aside, it's fine. Because at worst, those things won't happen, and guess what, you will have all this extra money, which can either go into your retirement fund or into your business growth fund. Okay, and then yeah, we already talked about a business investment fund. Take a skill like inventory of your skills, look at where you might need support, and then put money aside for that. And finally, I would suggest that you don't keep a big blob lump sum of all this money. There's a reason why I'm giving you all of these headings, and it's important to label it exactly like that. And it's also important to put it, like, for example, am I want all of this liquid, right? Like instantly accessible for me. So some of it you can go this way, some of it can go into a higher yield savings instrument if you're more savvy around your finances. But like if I'm keeping FDs, I will keep only one lakh denominations, because it's easy to kind of, that way I'm not losing out on interest on the long term just because I need to dip a little bit into it. It's easy for me to dip into it and get my money out. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the other elephant in the room. What if I run out of money and if I burn through my savings? I mean, there are only two possibilities. Either you're going to quit like me, the first time that I did it, with zero business income, 6 to 12 months of runway. I had to go back to a job, and that's what you'll do. You're not going to be unemployable. The second possibility is that you will quit with side hustle, in which case you will not burn through savings, and at max you may not save for 12 to 18 months. This is exactly what I was talking about happened with me. So I know for a fact that you're not going to be unemployable. This is not some major disaster that you're going to do. It's all going to be fine. It's about regulating your nervous system around this. Okay, there are other ways of, I think I've already talked a little bit about the third pillar of increasing safety feelings. There are two other, which is preparation. Predictability in terms of income is another thing which the nervous system feels really good around. So even if I was doing freelance projects, I didn't structure it as one or two tranches of payments. I arrived at a number and looked at the number of months it would take, and I just divided it into monthly installments, so that it gave me some more predictability around future revenue. Even now, when I'm doing coaching containers, I will offer monthly payment plans to people, because it helps them and it helps me, because I mean, there are times when I may not want to work, and it's nice to have some money coming in and knowing that the money is coming. Second is advance payments. This is a big one. I think it's important to negotiate on your freelance consulting projects or anything else that you're doing. Get paid in advance is just a lot better because you don't want to spend time when you're already building stuff. You don't want to spend time chasing people for money. You don't. And finally, when you've spent time, like really add value to people, of course, and do great work, of course, and invest in the relationship that you're building, and invest in long-term client relationships. Because imagine like if you had two, three clients who kept renewing with you, or who are happy to sign you off on a retainer, it's a win-win, right? Like you have a portfolio of clients who you can rely on. You don't have to do as much BD, and then there is consistent, predictable money coming through always, which is great. Okay, fine. And then the next one is around partnership. I know that this can become a charged conversation at home, especially with your spouse. If I mean, it affects, right? When you're talking about lifestyle cost, it's going to affect the lifestyle of your kids. It's going to affect a bunch of other things. So you want to like really have a positive conversation, like I already demonstrated to you about your rich life values, things that give you joy. Make sure that you have more conversations around that, and then consciously choose things that all of you are choosing to drop, and things that you are going to keep, and that way you get more joy out of the money that you're spending, and it feels much better and as a family or as a couple unit, you're making these choices for a better life wherein you have more flexibility, more autonomy, more time to spend with each other, right? And I think I've already talked about this also, that you are your biggest asset. That's how I see it, and that's why I have gone ahead and made tons of investments in my own growth and development. Okay, finally, let's talk a little bit about a rough timeline that you can look at, because fire number might be 10 years, your freedom number is 18 months max. So you calculate the freedom number, you optimize your freedom number. This can be done over 2 weekends. You start building towards your emergency liquid fund. Again, it's a simple matter of switching on off, starting a side hustle, and when you have a side hustle, that's new money that's coming through, right, over and above your salary. So you're going to use it to create an emergency fund. You're going to use it to create a business investments fund. And then as you start growing your side hustle, bring in more and more predictability in your income, even in your side income. And then finally you can make the switch when you hit your emergency fund and business investment targets. Okay, so summary is freedom number is much lower. You can increase safety by accounting for all the things that can go wrong. Essentially, you want to account for your lifestyle, your business, your retirement, and emergencies. That's it. There's nothing else. And you don't need 6 crores, of course. So if you're ready to calculate your freedom number, I have a guided workbook with me. Just comment freedom or DM me, and I will send that over to you. If you liked this episode and you want more of these kind of insights and content, you can support me by joining my newsletter, Limitless with Mansi /newsletter. The newsletter has content, plus the podcast also drops in with the newsletter into your inbox so that you never have to miss another episode or an edition. I hope you found this useful. And I hope that you can find more joy in your money. And I hope that you can find some relief when it comes to money, because money can be your friend. You don't have to be afraid of money.